Quiz 3. What's this about? Oh, fruits, floral evolution, inflorescence types. Hooray, let's go. Ah, honey, I'm going to the grocery store to buy some fruit. Yeah, if there was a Pulitzer Prize for botany questions, I think this would be in the running for it. Tell us what sweetheart may have bought. Sunflower, quote, seeds, unquote. Achenes, dry indehiscent fruits where the ovary and the embryo can be separated. You can crack it open and the seed comes out. That is an achene. Sunflower seeds, quote, unquote, are achenes. Rice, grain. Grain is like an achene, but the ovary and the embryo are tightly fused. You can't crack it open and release the seed. Legumes, peas, beans, peanuts. Drupes. Drupes are stone fruits. Fleshy on the outside, fleshy in the middle, but the single seed enclosed with a bony endocarp. Many of them are closely related in the same genus, in fact, in the rose family. Peaches and plums and nectarines and cherries. Even almonds, but that's just the stone of a not very fleshy drupe. And avocados and a number of other things are drupes. Berries. A lot of things that have berry in their name aren't berries. And some things that don't have berry in their name are berries. Tomatoes, for example. Blueberries, they do have berries in their name. Take that. Ha. Pomes. Odd little accessory fruits where the hypanthium and the receptacle are fleshy and the ovary is deep in the inside and they have an inferior ovary found in one part of the rose family. Apples, pears, and quince, whatever quince is. Aggregates of druplets. So aggregates are many small fruits packed together on one flower, from one flower, and the individual fruits are one type or another. In this case, they're druplets. That's a raspberry, also blackberry. And those accessory fruits described before, where the receptacle is the fleshy part, and it's also an aggregate fruit, those are strawberries. A few other fruits, because this is a botany course, not a grocery course. An acorn is a nut, a single-seeded fruit with a hard, bony exocarp. Capsule is a dry fruit that splits open, typically with along the lines of the carpels, but sometimes by pores or other ways. And the follicle comes from a single carpel, not necessarily unicarpal gynecium, but one carpel of the gynecium, and it splits open along one line. So aggregate fruits and multiple fruits. They can look very similar when they're in fruit, being a lot of small fruits packed together in sort of a head-like grouping, but going back in time, an aggregate fruit comes from a single flower, and a multiple fruit comes from a small compact inflorescence of many, many small flowers. Monocots and Dicots. These are monocots are a true group. Dicots are not a single group, but sometimes the eudicots are used to describe the well-marked ones and the more recently evolved ones, and helpful for identification. Other than the number of cotyledons, 1 versus 2, monocots typically have parallel veins, whereas dicots have net veins. The flower parts of monocots are typically in 3s or multiples of 3, whereas in dicots, occasionally they'll be like that, but more often they'll be 4s or 5s. Inflorescences. The stalk of an inflorescence is a peduncle. The stalk of a flower is a pedicel. A leaf-like appendage that subtends the flower is called a bract. This particular inflorescence is called a raceme. It's an elongated inflorescence that's indeterminate. In other words, it grows at the tip. There's not a set number of flowers. The older parts are at the bottom, and the flowers are pedicelled. Raceme. A number of different types of inflorescences. Umbel, they're all attached at one point. The spike is like a raceme, but the flowers are sessile. A head is where they're all attached together, and they're sessile, that they don't have a stalk. A panicle is branched and branched again. A corym is like a flat-top raceme. And a cyme, it's a peculiar determinate inflorescence, where the tip flowers are the oldest, and it has a set determined number of flowers. But often the cymes are compound and look an awful lot like coryms. So, I tried to draw with the stylus. Boy, it works great. Sure. Um, the question had to do with drawing a flower that was relatively not advanced, that had the ancestral primitive sort of, not the derived characteristics. And on the left, we see, of course, radial symmetry. All the flower parts are equal in size. And on the right, we have this cross-section view that shows there are many sepals and many petals and many stamens and many carpels, all spirally inserted. And those are the traits of the Fench traits. Free, the parts are separate from each other. They're not fused. They're equal in size and shape. There's a lot of them, flower parts that is, and of course they're spirally arranged. And petals and sepals come first, and then the stamens, and then finally the gynoecium has a superior ovary, and it's hypogynous. Well, let's take a look at quiz number 4.